Ashish. Thanks a
Hi.
lot for your time on this Going Digital series that we're doing with 10xTD. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on board for this discussion today. Uh, and obviously, we would like to hear from you, a person who's so accomplished in a very senior role, leadership role in Asian Paints, heading the IT function as well as the HR function. And of course, in the past, you've handled supply chain, so you've pretty much exposure to different functions within Asian Paints. It would be lovely to hear from you about your experiences, and the idea behind this interaction is to just quickly get your view, on digital and how things can be done. Maybe to start off, if you'd like to just share any one experience in digital transformation that you've been part of and you're really excited about, maybe we can start with that.
Yeah, thanks, Siddharth, for having me. It's always a pleasure. One of the things that I really got excited about, which we did, and maybe I started it when I was playing my other role in supply chain, right? So this was the whole work that we started doing in the area of manufacturing analytics, which was, I thought, very different, way we looked at how we can really improve productivity of equipment on the shop floor and reduce cycle time of operations, and then save on cost in terms of power, and obviously increase the throughput. So very it was a very different way of looking at data of coming out from machines. It was we were benefiting from the fact that our plants were all were already automated. So there are various subsystems that feed into this. So how do you really find out where the problems are and how it could be optimized? I never thought that very frankly data could be an enabler for that.
Mhm.
And I used to head supply chain over at that time, and there was a lot of reputation in saying that we know it for years. How could some data elements try and help me reduce it?
True.
Just the experience was probably enough to figure out where the problems normally lie, and how the throughput could be increased. So that was exciting, and having then moved on to and transition my role to IT, I'm also seeing it from the other side of how a lot of these elements of data analysis and latest algorithms can really change the fundamental way some of these problems can be solved. Right, so that has been interesting. But yeah, manufacturing analytics was a close one that I really, really personally got involved a lot in.
Okay, and
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of these kind of digital initiatives, uh, how do you choose one over the other? I mean, there must be multiple initiatives that vie for attention, all look good on paper. So, what do you do to kind of decide that, okay, let's pick this one, let's focus on this one, and then deliver the others, or whatever methodology? How do you do that?
Yeah. So two, three things is that. I mean, one is, one way to look at it, which we normally do is obviously if the value is extremely high, you really go after it. So, if you really see that value from a cost reduction, productivity, or it could even be a process change which can enable it on the front end, on the sales side, on the customer facing end. And
Hmm.
if you're really changing the paradigm or disrupting the way that interface is happening, I think that is a clear winner in terms of putting in your resources, whether it is money or people over there, right? So that is one clear way. The other is sometimes it's all about trying out some things, failing fast, finding out whether it's workable in our scenario, whether it is something that the business will really look forward to and can adapt, right? So it's important in some of the new technology domains is also to get a good quick win from the business, and then explore the technology further, because some of it may also require investments in the longer term.
Yeah.
So how do you so sometimes the choice is just that how can I do it fast, or a scenario that can really work out fast and can get demonstrable, not only in terms of capability but also in terms of the value it can provide. I think that then starts opening up different vistas where you may want to look at other use cases. So I would say two things, right? One is obviously if it is a disruptive technology which can really change the way the business or the consumer is being attacked at, or how the productivity or cost could be improved. And the other element is cases where you may want to pick to get something going fast on the ground, prove something get convinced yourself of it and then move forward. So I would say these are the two, different ways I would look at, adapting or getting onto
Lovely.
technologies.
Lovely. And if I have to look at the kind of projects that you run across a company as diverse as Asian Paints, uh, how do you measure what success factors do you look at? What critical success factors do you look at to know that a project has taken off well, it is going well, it's implemented well? What are the critical success factors in your eyes? What what do you think needs to be done to ensure everyone knows? I mean, at high level we know, but what in your experience you've seen that really works to make these kind of initiatives take off well and stay on track?
So, I mean, this is a tough challenge in IT, and over the years, there are different ways, where in my early days, it was as simple as adoption, right? So,
Yeah.
you just ensure that the old way of working stops, right? So, that's one very good benchmark we used to have in the years gone by, where a manual process got converted to an IT process, and you were convinced that that would provide about a change. So that's
Yeah.
a very basic or a rudimentary way of looking at. But in a lot of the other initiatives and areas that we are really working on, there would be different benchmarks that
Hmm.
we would set on. In lot of our initiatives where that you would do on, say, on the shop floor or in terms of productivity enhancements, I think there are real benefits to be seen in terms of cost, in terms of usage, as well as scalability. So I think one of the things that we clearly look at, as IT is how do you reduce cost as you scale, and and when I say scale, I say scale the business, right? So whether it is large assets that you're managing, and any areas that you're working in that space, how do you make that asset more productive as and when you go along? So I would say that various benchmarks for measuring success. Yeah, there are times where a lot of technologies would be hygiene. So whether it is mediums like this that we are using in the
Yeah.
collaborative space, there are a lot of investments which are provided as hygiene, whether they are investments in security in some of the infrastructure components. So looking at that constantly is something that we would keep doing. But I think it's a mix, right? So some of those early adoptions that you would do on technologies, maybe the gains would not be immediate, but it can come over some periods of time. So I would say it would range from a clear measure would obviously be adoption, right? And the
Yeah.
old way of going out. But more importantly, there are specific investments. You really look at the stated benefit versus where we are in terms of what we want to achieve.
So, from since you're looking at the HR perspective as well, maybe some thoughts from that side as well. I mean, when you're driving some sort of a digital transformation which cuts across different functions in the organization, what kind of challenges have you faced from a people perspective, either from the skills perspective of people who are implementing such software, as well as getting people to actually use them? What kind of challenges have you faced, and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, so I think there are two challenges as I see it. As you rightly said, sometimes it's about the skill that you need, right? And maybe we being an in-house IT team are constrained by the number of resources and people that we have. So there is that much you can do to expand that if you are looking at many new areas. So obviously, getting into partnership with vendors who have that skill, in-source it in-house, and maybe reduce some other skill sets is something that we constantly kind of do. The other challenge is obviously the adaptation challenge, right? But across the organization by different people, I actually don't see so much of a challenge there, right? So I think the workforce coming in today is probably seeing that is more equipped and is wanting more of those changes, right? So it's actually the senior leadership management which probably needs a bigger change in the outlook, and the framework of policies, and the changes that they can bring about to enable some of these elements. So like for example, in the same area of analytics and AI ML. I think the biggest challenge that I faced was to get sponsorship for some of these projects, to get them off the feet and get them going and get it implemented. And the leaders really struggle at times to understand what or how it could change some of the paradigms, right? So just doing what I termed as a demystifying AI, kind of workshops,
Mhm.
and trying to explain in simple terminologies these elements for very senior leaders, I think is something that I think helped me in this process, right? So get in somebody with maybe not a vendor, but somebody else. That starts happening, then I think the push and drive, and even the pull starts happening from the business.
And in terms of the skills of teams,
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
again, as you said, you have an in-house IT team largely, and multiple technologies running at the same point of time, multiple applications running at the same point of time. So obviously, when you add new technology, new digital initiatives, there would be a challenge in terms of getting them skilled up as well. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, so we obviously from a skilling perspective, that's always a challenge, as I said, right? So there's that much you can adapt, right? But I think in a lot of cases, we the older skill sets we try and outsource as much as possible for maintenance support, right? And maybe even see if that can be re-engineered into the newer technology. So that's something that we would do. Skilling, obviously, we depend since we don't have a large team. A lot of it is done in house as well, and we would also partner with some vendors or some agencies who can really help the team skill up in that short duration. So typically, what we do is that we would have a engagement where we work with a technology vendor, work in a way which is which has got our resources working along with the vendor, and build the skill while that project is going on. And then once that critical mass of my team is established, and then we would scale it up. That's typically how we would approach it.
Right. So, Ashish, you've had a long journey in Asian Paints. You've been there for a very long time and had continuous growth in your career, and have come to a very senior role in Asian Paints today. Uh, it'll be lovely if you can share in your journey to come to this point today. What's the situation like. We are
Yeah,
a lot of
sure.
uncertainty. A lot of people are very unsure about their roles in their companies, and even those who are fairly well established, would love to hear from a person like you that in this journey, what did you do differently? What choices did you make? What mindset did you have? What kind of projects did you take up, which got you to this point? And what rigor did you use? Whatever you would like to share, that would
Yeah,
be lovely.
sure. Yeah, so you're right. I think I was just speaking to a fresh bunch of management graduates just the other week. 75 of them, 72 of them who joined us, right? And we had to do an induction through a Zoom call. So, and I can imagine that they were all, even in the last 4 months, away from campuses, not part of campus life, but still, working or studying from home. So it's tough times, and maybe these are the times where a lot of the normal will tend to change. So one advice or one thing that I really related back to my own career journey is adaptability, right? So I've moved across roles in my tenure, and that in my mind has given me a lot of valuable experience, not only across functional domains but also across businesses, right? So being flexible, right, and taking on something new, challenging. You may be on a career path that can give you a lot of success just the way it is. Sometimes you need to take a course correction to be just to get that other experience, because that can really broaden your horizon. It may not get you the best return in the short run, but if you really look at it in a longer term, that's something that I found very important, right? So acquiring new skills, changing domains, looking at other areas, putting up yourself for it, right? And making your and and going after something new and different. I thought in my mind has helped me a lot. Yeah, there will be challenges. Whenever you get onto a new domain or a new function, it's not easy. There are different kind of challenges, right? So, uh, uh, I moved from IT to manufacturing. You're dealing with, technology, and suddenly you're dealing with people. So, very different kind of, elements in your own facets. But I think that brings about a lot of, your own personality, and it develops you a lot. So I would say if you're really looking for a long career, first of all, your values in the organization, the values that the organization has, and your own values, you should have a very good match. Right? That I think gives you a great level of comfort. And secondly, it would be about being open and flexible to what areas that you want to look at and explore more. Right? That would be something that has helped me in my career.
Lovely. And in terms of the rigor that you would have followed, how would you compare, a person who uh, who grows to this level? What kind of a rigor would be needed to get to this level? Just if you want to share something there.
Yeah, so yeah, there are many aspects of rigor. Yeah, but I think the way I look at rigor is more on how you really enjoying your work, right? So
Hmm.
if you're really enjoying your work, I think the rigor will come on its own. So if you enforce a certain routine or a rigor, I don't think that works very well. The other thing that and I really benefited a lot was a great a peer interaction, I would say. Right? So you are obviously in a competitive environment in a corporate culture. That itself brings in a certain amount of rigor. But at the same time, I think your own drive and your own enjoyment that you're getting at work, I think for me gets in a much more kind of rigor. And the setup that I got benefited along the years in the environment that I worked was a very healthy but still competitive environment. So that is something that we really focus on within Asian Paints to continue to maintain. And I think that's something that I really look forward to.
So, any concluding words you would like to share, for people who are shaping their careers as digital leaders, given that's the
Yeah.
buzzword
So
today.
yeah, it's a tough one. We never started out big thinking that we would be digital leaders. Yeah, but there we are. So as I said, goes back to what I was saying earlier. Things, the pace at which are changing will be very different. So I think it's enjoy what you're doing, right? And at the same time, be flexible and open, because adaptability is something that will be really important for the future. These would be my real two mantras, if you want.
Lovely. Thank you, Ashish. Absolutely a pleasure speaking to you and a privilege as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your inputs and your experience over the years in this brief interaction. Pleasure, and we look forward to staying in touch and being connected with you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Siddharth. Thanks for having me over. It was fun talking to you. Thank
Thank
you.
you.